So Donald Trump has once again proven where his loyalties lies, and it's not with America, unfortunately, and it's definitely not with democracy. Now, while Vladimir Putin wages a brutal war of aggression against Ukraine, Trump has chosen to bow down to Moscow and attack the very man leading the fight for freedom, President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, let's be clear also, Trump's relationship with Putin has never been about strength. It's always been about submission. I think he considers him his best friend or some of that nature. Now, from the famous 2018 Helsinki summit where Trump stood beside Putin and sided with him over America's own intelligence agencies, today's Ukraine war, the pattern hasn't changed. Trump refuses to condemn Putin's crimes. He calls him smart, savvy, not even a genius. While innocent people are dying under Russian bombs, Trump's priority is always protecting Putin's image. Now, that's not leadership in my eyes, it's definitely weakness. Now, moving on, there's Trump's obsession with undermining President Zelensky. Let's not forget, this is the same Zelensky who refused to be bullied during Trump's so-called perfect phone call. Now, that one led to Trump's first impeachment. Today, Trump smears Zelensky as corrupt, ungrateful and undeserving of US support. But the reality is the opposite. Zelensky has become the face of global resistance to tyranny. While he rallies his people to fight for survival, Trump, on the other hand, tears him down from safety of a rally stage. It's absolutely disgraceful in my opinion. Now, so why does Trump keep bowing down to Putin while attacking Zelensky? The answer is simple. Trump admires power without accountability. He envies dictators who can silence critics, jail opponents, and rule without any checks or balances. Supporting Putin allows Trump to project his own authoritarian fantasies while attacking Zelensky, and he punishes the man who once refused to play his political games. It's less about foreign policy and more about Trump's ego, and it's American allies who actually pay the price. But this isn't just about Trump, ladies and gentlemen. It has real consequences. Every time he undermines Zelensky, he emboldens Putin. Every time he threatens to cut off aid to Ukraine, he signals to dictators around the world that America might not defend democracy. Imagine what a second Trump presidency would mean. I mean, a third Trump presidency, which obviously we all don't want to see. NATO weakened, Ukraine abandoned, and Putin given a green light to expand his war. The cost wouldn't just be Ukraine's freedom, it would be actual global security. Now, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say Donald Trump isn't standing up for America. He isn't standing up for freedom. He's actually bowing down to Putin and attacking a democratic leader fighting for survival. Now, that's not patriotism, it's betrayal. And the world should never forget it. If you agree, hit like and subscribe, and please share this video. The truth is simple. Trump kneels to Putin while Zelensky stands tall for democracy. Take care, guys. See you on the next one.
I want to bring in NBC's Yamiche Alcindor, who covers the White House for us. NBC chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel is in northeast Ukraine. Ivo Daalder is former U.S. ambassador to NATO and senior fellow at the Harvard Belfer Center. And former Ambassador Michael Carpenter served as senior director for Europe on President Biden's National Security Council. Welcome to all of you. Ambassador Daalder, take us inside the room where these European power players are going to be gathered a short time from now. What's the goal? What's the strategy for today?
The goal is to get the president back on track. He deviated from where they were just a week ago. Last Wednesday, they had a virtual meeting in which these same leaders met with President Trump, Secretary Rubio, and Vice President Vance, and they agreed that there would be a ceasefire first and then a negotiation about all of the outstanding issues, including territory, including security guarantees, including reconstitution and reconstruction, and the return of the children that have been abducted by Vladimir Putin's Russia. The goal is to get the president back on track. He deviated from that in the summit with Vladimir Putin. He abandoned the idea of a ceasefire. He put squarely on the table the idea of land swaps. Those are not issues to be discussed until the killing ends, because of, and then have a serious negotiation in which all of the deals need to be happening at the same time.
Well, Ambassador Carpenter, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said just yesterday that both sides need to be prepared to make concessions.
If there aren't concessions, if one side gets everything they want, that's called surrender. That's called the end of the war through surrender. And that's not what we're close to doing, because neither side here is on the verge of surrender or anything close to it.
So if Putin wants land, and we aren't talking about useless land, we're talking about land potentially where hundreds of thousands of people live, and the offer is security guarantees that Putin has ignored in the past, it raises the question, what constitutes concessions that both sides could live with?
A great question, Chris, and I think it's probably why I'm so skeptical that there's going to be any sort of a peace agreement in the coming months. I just think that the Venn diagram between what Ukraine wants out of this and what Russia wants is there's no overlap there. So the fundamentals
I just have to stop you there, because you're not even just talking about today and coming to at least a step in the deal today. You're talking about months from now, we could still be in the same place.
I would imagine that the two sides are going to be fighting at year's end, simply because, as you said, President Putin is demanding territory from Ukraine. He's demanding that there be no NATO involvement, including troops from European countries in Ukraine, which is very much what the European leaders want. And of course, President Zelensky is not going to capitulate. He's not going to give up land, especially land that he controls, but land that is de jure part of his country. And so between those two positions, there's very little daylight to see how any administration, even the one with the most leverage, could possibly drive a deal forward.
So, Yamiche, to the point of what European leaders want to get out of today, as we see the honor guard that is waiting for the arrival of those European leaders at the White House, Secretary Rubio also said that the U.S. could still toughen its stance. What are you hearing from the White House as all this gets underway?
Well, the White House is really saying and signaling that President Trump is ready to listen to the other side. Of course, on Friday, he had the ear of President Putin and heard his sort of claims and what he wants in an agreement. Now you have President Zelensky coming to the White House, but he's flanked by all of these European leaders. Let's remember, I was with you, Chris, when President Zelensky had that blow up in the Oval Office, and we were there live on TV when President Zelensky was literally shown the door at the White House. So they're hoping to just keep this meeting way more contained, way more calm, but they're also hoping to really, on the European side, hope to get the ear of President Trump to sort of agree to some of these security guarantees and sort of the idea that Ukraine has to be at the table. The White House is looking at this as the president sort of keeping his ears open to see what they all have to say. We've also been hearing from President Trump recently. He is posting online about this in a number of posts. I want to read one of them to you, part of one of them to you. He said, I've settled 6 wars in 6 months, one of them a possible nuclear disaster, and yet I have to read and listen to the Wall Street Journal and many others who truly don't have a clue, tell me everything that I have been doing wrong on the Ukraine-Russia mess. He went on to say, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I don't need the advice of people who have been working on all of these conflicts for years and were never able to bring them to an end or to stop them. And then he says, despite all of my lightweight and very jealous critics, I'll get it done, I always do. So what you have there is President Trump really making this promise and saying that he's going to get this done, that he's going to be able to bring this conflict to an end. We know on the campaign trail, he said he would do this within a day of coming into office. Obviously, it's now been 8 months since he's been in office. And President Trump has said himself that he thought this conflict could be simpler, and now that he knows it, he said that it's more complex than he would have imagined. But it's really interesting to see the president sort of say, I'm going to get this done, when he's also said if he doesn't see progress, he's going to sort of throw his hands up and walk away. So it'll be very interesting to see the tone that we hear from the president once these meetings are done. Chris?
Yeah, and Richard, obviously you are at the heart of one part of this. What is on President Zelensky's mind? What are his goals? Reasonable expectations as he arrives at the White House today?
Well, they're profound, his goals. You said right off the top that President Trump and Vladimir Putin, after their last meeting, have put the onus squarely on Zelensky, that it is up to Zelensky to surrender territory, whether that is Crimea, which is a territory that it is very, very difficult for Ukraine to recover, perhaps an impossibility at this stage, or if it's for them to accept all of the land, the 20% that Russia currently occupies, or pay the full bill that Vladimir Putin is demanding. Because according to numerous diplomats, Putin doesn't just want Crimea. He doesn't just want the 20% of this country that includes Crimea that he's occupied. He wants more territory. He wants other areas in a region called Donetsk, which is not very far from where I am, that are currently held by Ukrainian troops, that are Ukrainian cities, where Ukrainian civilians are living, where I was just the other day, and there are functioning cities. So the idea that President Zelensky would accept or even could accept 20% of his country being gone and then ordering his troops to leave and abandon a sovereign city and abandon the people who are living in it in order to get a promise from Vladimir Putin that he would not invade this country again, based on some security guarantees that have not at all been hammered out, when there is a history of Vladimir Putin invading this country time after time again. That is an untenable position for Ukraine. It is something that President Zelensky has said he could not accept, will not accept, and he's going to try and flip the script and put the onus on Vladimir Putin. And I think that's why he's brought so many supporters with him this time.
The people that are waiting for us, I think they're very like-minded. They want to help out all.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Trump. The United States has already given hundreds of billions of dollars to this war effort in Ukraine.
Biden.
At best, it is a stalemate, and the killing continues. So, President Trump, how much more is the United States willing to give Ukraine? And President Zelensky, how much more do you want?
Well, I'll start off just by saying we're not giving anything now. We're selling weapons. This is something before, I guess the number is well over $300 billion. That was under Joe Biden, a corrupt politician, not a smart man, never was. By the way, go back 40 years, he was not a smart man 40 years ago either, but now he's in particular bad. This was done by a corrupt administration that shouldn't have been in, and frankly, if the right results of the election were given, if I were president, this war would have never taken place, and he would have been very happy because he would have liked to have seen. I mean, they went through hell. He went through hell. This war would have never happened, and the people that were killed, a couple of million people, a lot of people with soldiers and everything else, and the people that have been displaced and forced into other areas and other countries because of what's happened, none of that would have happened. And I'm just saying that he was a horrible president, whether it was the borders or this. He was just a horrible, corrupt president.
Mr. President,
you want to
I can. Thank you so much. So, first of all, we have possibility now to buy weapon from the United States. We are thankful for this program and this opportunity. We are thankful for Europe. They pay for this. And through NATO program, for example, Pearl and etc., we have some programs where we can have some money to finance this. And this is a part, I think, it's not a part for the war and to defend us. It also will be a part for security guarantees, to strengthen our army, to rearm Ukrainian army. This is very, very important. And it depends how much money we need to rearm. For example, the question of air defense, we spoke about it with President Trump, and I'm happy that we have now bilateral decisions and we work on it with production, American production. Nobody in Europe has so many air defense like Patriots, for example. We need it very much, and this is also about defending.
I think the good news, we make the best military equipment in the world by far. You mentioned the Patriots. How good are they?
Yeah, systems.
We have systems. They're literally 100% foolproof, and it's really like shooting two bullets. You know, two bullets hitting each other in the air in a space like this. The chances, 100%. It's 99 to 100%. So we sell the equipment to NATO. And NATO does what, I don't know what the arrangement is that you have with, but I know that they want you to have the equipment. And we're getting the best equipment in the world, but they pay us for the equipment. Under Biden, it was just crazy what was going on. I believe the number is over 300. I think it could be $350 billion worth of equipment and money and everything else. And we've made more progress in settling this war in the last 2 months than they made in 4 years. This should have been settled a long time ago, but it should have never happened. Yeah.